Good evening. It's 11 o'clock at night. It's Thursday night, and it's nighttime here in Atlanta. And I got to thinking about, I don't know, the last few days I've been dealing a lot with my mother. And me and my mother were discussing my father. My name is Walter Jr., so my father was Walter Sr. And my father was, he was a bit of a character. He was funny. He was from Louisville, Mississippi. He was approximately about 10 years older than my mother. My father got sick, very ill, when I was about 10 or 11 years of age. And he was sick he was about 30 at that point, I think, maybe 35, somewhere up in there. But he was sick for pretty much the rest of his life. He was bedridden, pretty ill. He worked for U.S. Steel. And we believe it was from asbestos poisoning that he became very ill from working in the steel mill. I came out to my father in the fourth grade. I told him, I never forget it, I was holding an encyclopedia and I was reading it and I said, Daddy, this is me, I'm gay. I'm homosexual, according to this in the encyclopedia, and I read it to him. And amazingly, my father did not have a problem with my sexuality. Now, this was about 1976. It was the middle of the 70s. Here I was, a little kid in the fourth grade, explaining to my father my sexuality. My father not only did my father not have a problem with it, but I can remember him arguing with my mother about this later on, about me coming out at such an early age. And he made it clear to her that he didn't have a problem with me being gay. Of course, my mother, being the religious nutcake that she was and continues to be today, had a problem with my revelation in the fourth grade. A lot of guys and a lot of people have said, how am I so comfortable in my skin with my sexuality? And I think the bottom line is to hear my father defend who I was at such an early age. I never, ever, not once heard my father make one negative comment about a gay man, about gay guys, about homosexual. I never heard him use the term fag. I never heard him say any derogatory comment about a gay man. Never in my entire life. And I can say the same thing about my mother, too. But it was strange because my father, after I explained this to him, me and my father became very close. And my father kind of felt it his duty to make me man up, so to speak. We didn't have that term in the 70s. But he wasn't going to allow me to grow up to be he never even used the term sissy. But he wanted to make sure that I knew how to fight. He wanted to make sure that I could defend myself. He told me there's going to be a kind of a rough period of time for me for people to accept who I was. And in looking back on it, and I hear so many horror stories that people say about the relationships they have with their parents, and particularly their fathers. It kind of scares me, because and I'm thankful because I always sit here and think, why was my father so accepting? Why did he not have an issue with it? I mean, I could remember my mother and father arguing. My father was like, he didn't care, and he would go out and help me find a man. And I was thinking, my father understood sexuality back then. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, he really did understand me. At a point in my life, after my mother and father divorced, my father remarried and moved to Mississippi. And I was living with my mother in Michigan at this point. We left Gary, Indiana, and went to Michigan. And me and my mother were having a very, very, very tough time. We could not get along. So I ended up moving to Mississippi for my freshman year of high school. It was my freshman or sophomore year. I want to say freshman. Might have been sophomore year. And I stayed with my father. And me and my father, he taught me how to, we were in Mississippi, Louisville, Mississippi. My father was teaching me how to cut trees down with chainsaws and axes. I had to cut wood. He had a huge garden. We had to plant garden. He had chickens and little pigs. And so I had to do all this stuff every day. And my father would like to go fishing, which I enjoy going fishing. But I really did enjoy my father's company. It was just me, him, and his new wife. And Daddy would put me in the car, and he would let me drive. I didn't have a driver's license. He'd always let me drive everywhere. I get in the driver's seat, he'd let me drive. I'd drive all over the country, and it was just wonderful. And we talk. We talk about this gay thing and how I need to be careful. That there was this disease out there that was killing gay men, and he didn't want me to die from this disease. My father was talking about AIDS when nobody else was. Let me explain something to you guys. My father grew up in Mississippi. My father did not know how to read nor write. But my father made sure his children could read and write. My father didn't go to school. They didn't have a school to go to. They're in the country, middle of nowhere. But my father would make me get up every morning and read the Post Tribune, which was Gary, Indiana's newspaper, to him when he came in from the steel mill. And I'd have to read these articles and read through the paper. And if I didn't understand a word, or if he didn't understand something, I had a dictionary sitting right next to the bed. I had to look it up and explain what it meant. I used to think my father was so cruel for this. But as an adult, I understand what my father was doing. He wanted me to read. He wanted me to be smart. He wanted me to be intelligent. He wanted me to have the opportunities for the education that he didn't have. And if I came home with an F, D, or a C on that report card, you got your ass beat. That's the type of household I grew up with around. But it was interesting as I got older, and like I said, I moved to Mississippi and stayed with my father. And he would school me on certain things about condoms and sex. And of course, he didn't know what sex was like in a man. Hell, I didn't know what sex was like with a man, but I knew I was gay. And I look back on those years, and my father died in 2001. And at a point in my life, I got extremely busy with this construction company and real estate, and we were busy. And I never took time off to visit my father in Mississippi, even though his health deteriorated to a point that he got so sick that he ended up moving to Atlanta. He actually stayed for a little while with me and my partner in our home in Atlanta. And he stayed for a few weeks with us before going to stay with my sister. And then eventually we was all so busy, we couldn't take care of him. We ended up having to put him in a nursing home. And I regret a couple of things I did. Didn't go to the hospital to visit him because I was so busy making money. Didn't do any of the things that a son should have done for a father who's sick and in the hospital. And I look back on that with serious regret because I was young, I was stupid, I was in my 20s. And I let the desire to have money have a control over my life. So a lot of things that happened then in that period of time in my life that, in retrospect, if I could just get in a time machine and go back, I would have sat by my father's bedside every day at that hospital. I probably would have kept him in the home with me. I was young. I wasn't a 42-year-old man. You're talking about something that happened. I was in my 20s. I was mesmerized by Mercedes Benz and expensive cars and expensive houses and how much money I could have in the bank. I wasn't trying to do the right things as a son. So I always think about that. I always think about my father because he was the first person to acknowledge me as a black gay man, as a black gay kid. He didn't have any problems with it. He'd accepted me for who I was. And he was willing to fight for me. I argued with him really badly with my mother about this. He stood by me. I guess that's why I'm comfortable with who I am today. Because I had a father who stood by and loved his gay son. Never had a problem with it. Never had an issue with it. Never said a negative word about it. Grateful to have had a father like that. When I hear you guys tell me stories about the relationships you have with your father, it kind of scares me. Some of the relationships you have with your parents and your brothers and sisters, for the most part, my family is very close. I see my mother every day. She can be a handful. I am not kidding. But I see her practically every day, talk to her every day. Grateful to have her in my life. Grateful to have my brothers and sisters who support me in this journey. It hasn't been easy lately. Life's been really kind of rough. I think I had posted that God was humbling me, and He really, really, really has humbled Walter Hampton in the past few years. Made me take a close look in the mirror at myself and who I was and what I really, really wanted out of life. Found out I really don't need that Mercedes Benz. Found out I could survive without a whole lot of money in the bank too. But this post is about my father and my relationship with him and how grateful I am to have had a father like that. Thank you guys. I've gotten so much love from you all about my videos. I've met so many people all over the United States, all over the world, for watching these YouTube videos. Thank you so much. If you like my videos, please remember to click like. I want to respond to some of the comments. I'm going to try to this weekend. Again, thank you for supporting my YouTube and Facebook pages. Those of you who understand me, thank you. Because you understand what my heart is. You understand what I'm trying to do. I'm not opinionated. I'm just stating my opinion. You respect my opinion, I will respect yours. And you guys, thank you for watching. And I know this video is a little bit long. Since my father's been on my mind tonight really heavy. So I got up out of bed and said, let me go make this video. And you guys have a good night.